Let's get it popping, Rob Parker. Last night, look, I mean, this was over before it started to me. The LA there was no way, to use your phrase, Rob, there was no way, no how that I believed for a second that the Phoenix Suns were going to beat the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round of the playoffs, as long as LeBron and AD were playing. And I'm not saying they had to be 100% healthy. Just on the court. Just able to run up and down, able to shoot, able to defend, maybe 80%, whatever. With those two on the court, they were taking out the Phoenix Suns. And for those who didn't agree with me, for those that doubted, I think you got your answer last night. Now you know. Now you're on my side. Now you see what I was talking about. Because last night, in going up 2-1, the Los Angeles Lakers laid down the gauntlet. They let the Phoenix Suns know what time it is. They let them know, look, congratulations. You had a great season. Chris Paul was in the MVP race. Devin Booker will be all NBA probably. It's a nice stepping stone. But you don't know nothing about this here. These are the playoffs. These are where we reign. So go home for the summer, think about what you've learned, mature, and we'll see you next season. Because this thing is over. And the Los Angeles Lakers did that by winning in a way that the Phoenix Suns can't combat. It's not their fault. They're not big enough. They're not strong enough. I've been saying it, Rob, for months, that the advantage the LA Lakers have over teams is their size. And either put Andre Drummond on the bench or play big if he's on the floor. And last night, Rob, they didn't edge the Suns. They didn't get hot from three like anybody in the NBA can, and, the Suns could write it off as an aberration. No, they bullied them. They pounded them. They not only went big, but they played big. Drummond, Davis, LeBron, 58 points in the paint. Way more, 14 more than they'd had in any of the two previous games. Out-rebounded them by 16. 15 offensive boards. And in the third quarter, Rob, this is astonishing. Every single bucket in the third quarter for the Lakers, when they pulled away and took control of the game, was in the paint. Not a jumper outside the paint, not a three-pointer made at all. Every bucket was in the paint, 13 of them to be exact, and that's how the Lakers need to play. Stop trying to be this for net. You're not the Brooklyn Nets. You're not going to shoot. You might get hot here and there, but your forte isn't three-point shooting. Sure, you got to shoot some, but your bread and butter is your size and your strength. And Rob, that's why this thing is over.
It's not over till a team wins 4 games. I'm not there with you. But the other part is Lakers, they should use their size because they're not shooting well from the perimeter. So it does make sense. And they finally got that, as you talked about, better than the first 2 games. So it does make sense. And if it works and they do what they're supposed to, they do have an advantage. Also, I just think the Chris Paul, which is just a sad legacy for Chris Paul.
Yes.
It really is, Chris. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a guy who continuously gets hurt in the postseason. You know what I mean? Like you have the hopes or whatever, this young team. They got some young bucks, and they get a veteran guy, and it turns the tide for them the first time they make the playoffs in 11 years. And in the first game, I've still watched the video a couple times. I still don't know where the contact came from. You know what I mean? For the injury.
I think he hit his own teammate.
Did he? I mean, I watched it. He just grabs his neck and shoulder or whatever. But I'm just saying, you take that from the mix and it puts him in a bad spot. And then Devin Booker was so frustrated. Poor shooting night, 6 for 19, and winds up getting thrown out. So the Lakers are in the situation that they want to be. And I don't know if I think we talked about it yesterday. I'm a little confused what show I'm on, but I'm not sure if we talked about it. The idea of not playing him.
Right, you did. Yeah, you brought it up.
Yeah, about not playing him and maybe holding him out to see if we could just get one more day or 2 days more. You know what I mean? To see if he can get somewhat better. But obviously he's not right. So it would take a miracle for him to win.
Right. You brought up a good point about his legacy. And look, he's obviously a Hall of Famer and all that. But it's unfortunate because in the playoffs, look, we talked about Doc Rivers, and this doesn't exonerate Doc and his failure to get the most out of that Clippers team. But a lot of it, Rob, was injuries. In 7 years with the Clippers, I mean, if it wasn't Chris Paul, it was Blake Griffin, it seemed. You know what I mean?
No, there's no doubt. But I think what you're saying, too, is, injuries have played into it. I think in Doc's case, he's had more than a couple times where his teams were up 3-1. So you could look at injuries. You know what I mean?
No other coaches had more than one.
Yeah,
Doc's had three.
Three. That's what I'm saying. Like you can look at it, and injuries are part of it. But Chris Paul, have you ever seen anything? I can't think of any sport where a top caliber player come playoff time always winds up getting hurt at some point. A couple years ago with the Rockets, they were right there, Chris. If he didn't get hurt, right, they had a chance to go to the finals.
And think about that, because nobody could play with that Golden State team. And they had them down 3-2.
Yeah, they were right there.
Going home. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. But I also thought, Rob, we saw the return of LeBron James last night. That second half, and it's interesting, I don't know if you were watching on TNT, but Barkley said at halftime, Charles Barkley, something's wrong with LeBron. He's not the same. And he was passive the first half. Kind of like he'd been the first two games. I mean, he was effective, but he wasn't as aggressive as usual.
Right.
And that second half, he came out. He looked like the old LeBron going to the basket. And so we'll see, is he back in that regard? I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of goes back to being a little more passive. I think, Rob,
where they are, Lakers, you mean?
Yeah, I think they're doing what they need to do to win. I don't think they're going to overextend themselves, because I think they understand this. They got a long way to go. And they'll do what they need to do to win this series, especially with Chris Paul ailing. So how big of a challenge are the Suns at this point? All right.